The safe beeped and opened. Inside, Rafi found a thick folder, a small velvet pouch, and an old notebook. He opened the notebook carefully. On the first page, his uncle had written, "To the one who finds this, you hold a secret that can change the world. Trust your heart and your companion." The notebook described a powerful energy source his uncle had been working on for years. It was not ordinary electricity, but a concentrated energy that could provide power for an entire city. Rahim had built his experiments in secret under the junkyard to protect them from anyone who might misuse them. The velvet pouch contained 3 metallic cubes. They were light but dense and had the triangle and circle symbol etched on them. According to the notebook, these were power cores vital for activating the main machine. Rafi realized that his uncle had turned what everyone thought was junk into a cleverly hidden laboratory. Bruno barked and ran toward the narrow tunnel at the end of the room. Rafi followed, flashlight in hand. The tunnel was tight and the walls felt cold and damp. Stones and dust crunched beneath their feet as they crawled deeper. Soon they reached another chamber, smaller than the first but filled with metal shelves. On one shelf sat a large metal safe. Its door was thick and had a number pad on the front. Rafi examined the notebook for clues. He noticed a repeating pattern of numbers on the papers, 247. Carefully, he entered the sequence. The safe clicked open. Inside, he found 3 folders, another velvet pouch, and a small notebook. The folders contained schematics and instructions for the final machine. The notebook described a device that could harness the energy cores to produce an immense amount of clean power. One line caught his attention. "The final core is hidden beneath the old truck outside. Only the loyal companion can lead you to it." Rafi felt a thrill of excitement. He thought of the old photograph of his uncle standing beside the truck in the yard. He had to find it. Carrying the folders and pouch, he climbed back to the surface with Bruno leading the way. The sun was bright and the yard looked ordinary again, but Rafi's eyes saw differently now. Every pile of scrap, every old car, every broken machine might be hiding something important. At the far end of the lot, covered in weeds, was the old truck from the photograph. Bruno sniffed around it and barked, pawing at the dirt near the rear tires. Rafi knelt and dug carefully. After a few minutes, his shovel hit something metallic. He brushed the dirt away and revealed a small steel box. Its lid was marked with the same triangle and circle symbol. With care, he lifted the box and opened it. Inside were 2 vials of bright blue liquid that glowed faintly in the sunlight. A folded note lay on top. Rafi read it aloud. "This is the final core. Handle with care. It can power the device or cause great harm if misused." Rafi stared at the glowing liquid in awe. His uncle's invention was real, and he now held the last part needed to activate it. Bruno wagged his tail and barked softly as if acknowledging their success. Rafi carried the box and the notes back to the small office and placed them on the table. He sat down to review the plans, realizing the importance of what he now possessed. This discovery could bring energy to cities, reduce pollution, and change the lives of thousands. But it also had risks. If anyone learned about it, people with bad intentions might try to steal it. He worked through the evening studying the schematics and instructions. His uncle had designed safety systems to prevent accidents, but Rafi knew he needed patience and careful thought. Bruno lay quietly beside him, keeping watch. The next morning, Rafi decided to explore the main vault, the heart of his uncle's invention. He packed all the folders, vials, and metallic cubes. Bruno ran ahead excitedly, sensing another adventure. The vault was beneath the old shed at the far end of the junk lot. Its door was hidden under a pile of scrap metal. Rafi moved the pieces aside and revealed a large steel hatch with bolts and a keyhole. He inserted the brass key and the lock turned smoothly. With effort, he lifted the heavy door and a cold draft flowed up. The staircase beneath led to a large chamber with concrete walls and metal shelving. In the center stood the machine, a cylindrical structure with pipes, wires, and glowing panels. Rafi approached carefully, placing the metallic cubes and vials in their slots as indicated in the notebook. The machine hummed, lights flickered on, and a soft blue glow filled the chamber. Bruno sniffed the panels, curious but calm. Rafi felt the energy in the air. It was alive, vibrant, and controlled. He checked the safety mechanisms and followed the instructions step by step. Hours passed, but finally the machine stabilized. It was working perfectly. He stepped back, breathing heavily. He looked at Bruno and whispered, "We did it, buddy. We really did it." Bruno barked softly, tail wagging, as if he understood the moment's importance. Raffi now faced a new challenge. The invention was powerful, but he had to protect it. He needed a plan to keep it safe from those who might misuse it. He realized that revealing it to the world too soon could be dangerous. He spent the next few days organizing the underground vault, securing all documents, vials, and cores. He reinforced the entrance and hid the key in a secret place in the office. Bruno patrolled the lot with him, always alert. Raffi also started thinking about how he could use the machine for good. He wanted to help his town first, providing energy to homes and schools. But he needed more knowledge and careful planning to safely expand its use. The junk lot had become more than just a piece of land. It was now a treasure, a secret lab, and a responsibility. Raffi felt proud and nervous at the same time. He had inherited not only the land but also his uncle's legacy. One evening, as the sun set, Raffi looked at the yard. The rusted cars, piles of scrap, and broken machines now seemed alive with purpose. They had hidden a secret for years, waiting for someone who would notice the details, trust their companion, and follow the clues. Bruno sat beside him, watching the shadows stretch across the lot. Raffi patted his head and whispered, "You found this, buddy. We couldn't have done it without you." He knew the real adventure was only beginning. Protecting the invention, understanding it fully, and deciding how to use it wisely would take courage, patience, and wisdom. But Raffi felt ready. With Bruno by his side, he was determined to honor his uncle's trust and keep the secret safe. As night fell, the glowing machine deep underground shimmered faintly, waiting for the world to discover its true power. Raffi went to sleep in his cabin, thinking about the future filled with hope and determination. He had gone from a poor hiker to the guardian of an incredible secret, and he knew that life would never be the same again. Raffi was a simple man who lived in a small wooden cabin at the edge of the forest. His life was quiet and plain. He spent most of his days hiking through the hills with his loyal brown dog, Bruno. Raffi did not have much money, but he loved nature and peace. The forest was his home, and Bruno was his only family. Every morning, Raffi packed a small bag with bread, water, and a few tools. He walked through green valleys and rocky paths while Bruno ran ahead, chasing butterflies or barking at birds. The people in the nearby town called Raffi the Forest Man because he preferred trees over people. He did small jobs in town like cleaning shops or fixing fences. He was always polite and hardworking, but his clothes were old, and his shoes were full of holes. One afternoon, Raffi received a letter that changed his quiet life. The letter came from a lawyer in the city. It said that his uncle Rahim, whom he had not seen in many years, had passed away. The letter also said that Raffi had inherited a property from him, something called Lot 47. Raffi sat on the steps of his cabin, reading the letter again and again. His uncle Rahim had been a strange man who collected old machines, cars, and metal scraps. People in town said his place looked like a junkyard. Some even said it was haunted because of the strange noises that came from it at night. Raffi did not believe in such stories, but he felt unsure about what to do. He looked at Bruno and said, "What do you think, buddy? Should we go see this place?" Bruno wagged his tail and barked happily. The next morning, Raffi packed his bag, locked his cabin, and started the long walk toward the old lot. The sun was hot and the road was rough. He crossed dry fields and broken fences. When he finally reached the property, he saw a rusty gate with a faded sign that read Lot 47. The place looked forgotten. Old cars with missing tires stood in crooked lines. Broken furniture, metal drums, and pieces of machines were scattered everywhere. Weeds grew tall and birds flew away as Raffi opened the gate. He walked inside slowly, Bruno following close behind. "Looks like a real treasure, huh?" Raffi said with a laugh. Bruno sniffed the ground, wagging his tail as if he had found something interesting. Raffi spent the next few hours exploring the yard. He found broken typewriters, smashed radios, and boxes filled with bolts and screws. In one corner stood a small wooden office with dusty windows and a door that barely hung on its hinges. Inside, the air was heavy and smelled of oil and rust. He found some papers on a desk, all yellow and brittle. There were old receipts, letters, and a few photographs. One picture showed his uncle Rahim standing beside a large truck, smiling proudly. Raffi wondered what kind of man had spent his life surrounded by junk. The more he looked around, the more he realized the place had no value. Everything was old and broken. He thought about selling the land, but who would buy it? He sat on an overturned bucket and sighed. Bruno came and rested his head on Rafi's leg. "Maybe we should just go home, boy," Rafi said softly. The evening sun turned the sky orange. Rafi ate a piece of bread and shared some with Bruno. Just as he started packing his things, Bruno stood up suddenly. His ears perked and he began barking toward a pile of old metal barrels near the far corner. Rafi frowned. "What is it now?" he asked. Bruno ran to the barrels and began digging the dirt beneath them. His paws threw dust and dry leaves into the air. Rafi walked over, curious. The ground under the barrels looked different, as if someone had dug there before. Rafi knelt and brushed away the dirt with his hands. His fingers hit something hard. He cleared more soil and saw the edge of a small metal box buried in the ground. It was locked with a chain, covered in rust but still strong. Rafi lifted it carefully. It was heavier than it looked. He carried it to the office and set it on the desk. Using an old hammer he found nearby, he struck the chain until it broke. Inside the box was an envelope, a brass key, and a folded note. The note was written in shaky handwriting. It said, "To the one who finds this box. The truth lies deeper than gold. Trust the dog to show the way." Rafi read the note several times. He felt confused. What truth? What gold? He looked at Bruno, who sat beside him, tail wagging proudly. He opened the envelope and found a few papers filled with strange numbers and symbols. None of it made sense. He placed everything back into the box and leaned back in the chair, thinking hard. Night came quickly. The lot grew dark and silent except for the sound of crickets. Rafi lit a small lamp he found in the office and stared at the box. The words from the note echoed in his mind. "Trust the dog to show the way." Bruno curled up beside the chair and fell asleep. Rafi smiled at him. "Looks like you found something important, my friend," he whispered. When morning came, Rafi decided to stay for a few more days to see if there was anything else hidden on the property. He cleaned a small area near the office and started digging in different spots but found nothing. Then Bruno began barking again, this time near the back fence. Rafi followed him and saw the dog pawing at the ground beside a large metal sheet half buried under weeds. He pulled the weeds away and uncovered a rectangular door made of steel. It was flat against the ground and had a keyhole. Rafi's hands trembled as he took the brass key from the box. He pushed it into the keyhole and it fit perfectly. With a soft click, the lock opened. He lifted the heavy door, and cold air rushed out from below. A dark staircase led underground. The smell was old but not rotten. It smelled like earth and metal. Bruno barked once, looking at Rafi as if waiting for permission. Rafi took a deep breath. "All right, Bruno, let's see what your nose has found this time." He grabbed a flashlight from his bag and shone it down the stairs. The beam of light revealed walls made of concrete and old wooden steps covered in dust. His heart beat faster as he began to step down carefully, Bruno walking beside him. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The air was cool and heavy. At the bottom of the stairs, Rafi found a small underground room. It had a metal table, a few shelves, and boxes stacked in the corners. Everything was covered in dust. Rafi set the flashlight on the table and looked around. On one wall, there was a large map pinned under glass. It showed drawings of land sections, rivers, and marks in red ink. He walked closer and noticed one mark circled several times right where Lot 47 was written. He felt a chill run down his back. He whispered to himself, "What did you hide here, Uncle Rahim?" Bruno sniffed the floor and barked twice, his tail wagging faster. Rafi followed his gaze and saw something shiny under an old wooden crate. He bent down and pushed the crate aside. Beneath it was a sealed metal box with a strange symbol on top. Rafi touched it carefully. It was cold and heavy. Whatever was inside, it was not junk. He lifted it onto the table, his hands shaking with excitement. Bruno stood beside him, tail wagging as if he knew their lives were about to change. Rafi took a deep breath and looked around the dark, underground room. His uncle's words echoed again in his head. The truth lies deeper than gold. He realized this was only the beginning of the mystery hidden beneath the junk lot. Rafi stared at the metal door in shock. It was flat on the ground, covered in dust and vines, with a keyhole right in the center. His hands trembled as he took out the brass key from the old box. The key slid into the lock smoothly, as if it had waited for this moment for many years. With a soft click, the lock turned, and the door lifted slightly with a long creak. Cold air rushed out from below, carrying the smell of damp earth and metal. Rafi grabbed his flashlight and leaned over the opening. A staircase led downward into darkness. Bruno stood beside him, tail wagging and eyes bright with curiosity. Rafi looked at him and said, "All right, boy, looks like your nose was right again." He stepped onto the first step carefully, the wood groaning under his weight. The flashlight beam revealed old concrete walls and cobwebs hanging like curtains. Dust rose into the air as they descended. Bruno followed close behind, sniffing every corner. At the bottom, Rafi found a small underground room. It was built from strong bricks and had a low ceiling. There was a metal table in the middle, a few shelves on the wall, and several wooden crates stacked in the corners. Everything was covered in dust, but the air felt surprisingly clean, as if someone had sealed the place carefully. Rafi set the flashlight on the table and looked around. On one wall hung a map under glass. It showed land sections, roads, and markings written in red ink. One red circle stood exactly where Lot 47 was written. Rafi frowned and whispered, "What did you hide here, Uncle Rahim?" He brushed dust off the crates and opened one. Inside were stacks of papers, old tools, and small mechanical parts. The next crate held glass bottles and strange devices that looked like pieces of machines. None of it seemed valuable. Bruno walked around, his nose twitching. He stopped near a shelf and barked twice. Rafi turned quickly. "What did you find?" "Now?" He moved closer and noticed a small metal box hidden behind the shelf. It was different from the others, cleaner and heavier. He pulled it out, wiped the dust off, and placed it on the table. The lid had a strange symbol carved on top, a triangle with a small circle in the center. Rafi slowly lifted the lid. Inside were several neatly packed metal cylinders, each labeled with numbers and letters he didn't understand. Beneath them lay a folder with old documents. The first page had his uncle's name written on it. The next few pages were filled with blueprints, drawings, and handwritten notes. The drawings showed machines that looked like energy devices with labels like Prototype Core and Power Source A12. Rafi's eyes widened. He did not understand much about technology, but even he could tell this was not ordinary junk. He read one note that said, "Hidden formula secured under main vault. Only the map will reveal the rest." Rafi looked at the map on the wall again. It was covered in numbers and arrows. Maybe the red circle was pointing to another location. Maybe this underground room was only part of something bigger. Bruno barked again, this time standing near a narrow tunnel at the end of the room. It was small and dark, barely large enough for a person to crawl through. Rafi shined the flashlight inside. The tunnel led deeper underground, disappearing into the shadows. "Looks like the adventure isn't over yet," Rafi said with a nervous laugh. He crawled into the tunnel, holding the flashlight in one hand. The air grew colder, and small stones crunched under his knees. Bruno followed closely, his breathing steady and calm. After a few minutes, they reached another chamber. This one was smaller but filled with metal shelves. On one of the shelves sat a locked metal safe. Its door was thick, and a small number pad was attached to the front. Rafi frowned. A code, of course. He thought about the papers in the first box. Maybe the strange numbers were not random after all. He hurried back through the tunnel, grabbed the papers with the symbols, and returned to the safe. He compared the numbers and noticed one pattern repeated several times, 247. He pressed the numbers on the keypad. The safe beeped and clicked open. Inside the safe were 3 thick folders, a velvet pouch, and an old notebook. The notebook had his uncle's handwriting again. On the first page was a message. "To my heir. This land hides a power greater than money. Protect it, or others will destroy it." Rafi turned the pages. His uncle had written about an experimental energy source he discovered years ago while working as an engineer. When the company refused to support his research, he quit and built a secret lab under his junkyard. He believed his invention could change the world. The notebook ended with a final line. "The last sample is buried under the old truck." Rafi looked around, his heart beating faster. He remembered the photo he had seen in the office above ground, the one with his uncle standing beside a truck. Could that truck still be in the yard? He quickly packed the notebook, pouch, and papers into his bag and climbed back up the stairs with Bruno leading the way. When they reached the surface, the sunlight blinded him for a moment. The yard looked different now. It was no longer a useless pile of trash. It was a mystery waiting to be solved. Rafi ran toward the area where the old vehicles were parked. He found the same large truck from the photograph covered in rust and vines. He walked around it looking for signs of disturbed soil. Bruno sniffed near the back and barked. Rafi grabbed his shovel and started digging. The ground was hard at first but soon turned softer. After digging for a while, his shovel hit something metallic. He cleared more dirt and saw a small steel box. It was sealed tightly. He lifted it out carefully, his hands shaking with excitement. Bruno barked joyfully, jumping around him. Rafi wiped the dust away and noticed the same triangle and circle symbol on the lid, just like the one on the box underground. He sat down, took a deep breath, and opened it. Inside were 2 glass vials filled with a bright blue liquid that glowed faintly in the sunlight. He also found another folded note. It read, "This is the final core. Handle with care. It can power a city, or destroy it if misused." Rafi stared at the glowing vials, unable to believe his eyes. Could his uncle have really discovered a new energy source? Was this what the papers called prototype core? He placed the vials back in the box and locked it again. His mind raced with questions. Who else knew about this secret? Was anyone searching for it? He looked at Bruno, who stood proudly beside him. "You did it again, boy," Rafi said with a smile. "You found something the world forgot." The wind blew through the dry grass, and the junkyard seemed alive again. The sun reflected off old metal pieces, making them shine like silver. Rafi realized that his uncle's so-called junk was hiding something priceless. He carried the box back to the small office and sat down to think. He knew he had to protect what he had found. If the wrong people discovered this, they would stop at nothing to take it away. As night fell, Rafi locked the underground door and placed heavy barrels over it. He kept the steel box and the notebook close to him. Bruno lay at his feet, watching the shadows outside. Rafi whispered, "We'll rest tonight, buddy. Tomorrow we find out what to do next." The old junk lot was silent again, but somewhere under the ground, the faint blue glow of the hidden cores still shimmered softly, waiting for the world to discover their power. The safe beeped and clicked open. Rafi's heart raced as he lifted the door. Inside were 3 thick folders, a small velvet pouch, and an old notebook. The notebook's pages were filled with his Uncle Rahim's handwriting, carefully penned but fading with time. The first page read, "To my heir, this land hides a discovery greater than gold. Protect it. Use it wisely. Trust your instincts and your companion." Rafi turned the pages carefully. The notebook described an experimental energy source Rahim had been developing for years. It was not electricity in the usual sense, but a concentrated power that could generate energy enough for an entire city. Rahim had been forced to leave his company and move to the lot in secrecy, hiding his invention beneath layers of junk and earth. The velvet pouch contained 3 small metallic cubes. They were light but dense, etched with the same triangle and circle symbol Rafi had seen before. The notebook referred to them as power cores, the main components of the energy device. Rafi realized that what looked like a junkyard was actually a carefully hidden laboratory. His uncle had planned it this way so that only someone observant and trustworthy like Rafi could discover it. Bruno barked and nudged Rafi toward the tunnel. The dog's instinct seemed to know where more secrets lay. Rafi followed him down the dark passage again. The walls were cool and damp, and small stones crunched beneath his feet. He shone the flashlight across the room they had visited before, and noticed a faint outline in the dirt floor, suggesting something had been buried there and recently shifted. Rafi knelt and brushed away the dust, revealing the top of another metal box. It was smaller than the first, but heavier. He lifted it carefully, his muscles straining. Inside were 2 vials filled with a glowing blue liquid. A note lay next to them. "This is the final core," it said. "Handle with care. This alone can power the machine or cause great danger if misused. The map will guide you to the main vault. Follow it carefully." Rafi's mind raced. The glowing liquid looked almost magical. Could it really contain the energy his uncle described? He placed the vials carefully in his bag and returned to the underground office. Bruno followed quietly as if understanding the importance of their find. Rafi sat at the table with the map and the notebook. He spread out the papers, trying to decode the red markings and numbers. The map showed a network of tunnels, hidden chambers, and symbols that corresponded to places in the junkyard above ground. The red circle he had seen earlier indicated the main vault, buried beneath an old shed at the far end of the lot. Rafi realized the journey was far from over. The underground room had been just the first step. If he wanted to fully understand his uncle's invention, he would have to explore the main vault. The next morning, he packed his flashlight, tools, notebook, and boxes with the power cores. Bruno ran ahead excitedly as they entered the lot. Rafi's eyes scanned the yard. It looked the same, but now he saw potential hiding in every pile of rusted metal. The shed at the far end of the lot had a sagging roof, its wood darkened by years of rain. He approached the shed carefully, listening to the creaking wood beneath his feet. Bruno sniffed around, ears alert. Rafi pushed the door open. Inside, the shed was dark with a layer of dust and cobwebs. At first it looked empty, but then Rafi noticed a slightly raised metal floor panel. The map had shown this exact location. He knelt and brushed away years of dirt and debris, revealing a large metal hatch with a keyhole and several bolts. Using the brass key, Rafi unlocked the hatch. With effort, he lifted it, revealing a dark staircase leading down. The air from below was cool and smelled faintly of metal and oil. Bruno wagged his tail, ready to go. Rafi held the flashlight high and started down the steps. The staircase opened into a vast underground vault. Rafi's jaw dropped. The vault was massive, with metal walls and shelves filled with machines, devices, and stacks of papers. At the center was a large cylindrical machine with glowing components. Pipes and wires ran from it, disappearing into the walls. This was the heart of Rahim's invention. Rafi approached slowly, examining the machine. The vials from the small box and the metallic cubes fit perfectly into slots in the device. As he inserted them, the machine hummed softly, lights blinking on the panels. The underground vault came alive with a quiet energy that made the air buzz slightly. Bruno walked around carefully, sniffing the glowing panels. Rafi's hands shook with excitement. He could not believe what he was seeing. This was more than just an invention. It was a power source unlike anything the world had known. He looked at the notebook again. His uncle had written detailed instructions on how to activate and control the machine. It was complicated, but Rafi understood the basic idea. He had to connect the cores, adjust the flow of energy, and ensure safety mechanisms were in place. One wrong move could be dangerous. Rafi worked carefully, following every instruction. Hours passed. His hands were tired, his eyes strained, but he continued. Bruno stayed close, resting near the control panel. Finally, after many careful adjustments, the machine reached a stable hum. A soft blue light filled the vault. The machine was fully powered. Rafi could feel the energy, not in his hands, but in the air. It was alive, controlled, and safe. He had done it. He had activated his uncle's secret invention. Rafi stepped back, breathing heavily. He looked at Bruno and whispered, "We did it, buddy. We really did it." Bruno barked softly, as if agreeing. Now Rafi faced another challenge. This invention could change the world. It could power cities, provide clean energy, and end reliance on old systems. But if it fell into the wrong hands, it could be stolen or misused. He needed a plan to protect it. As the sun set above the lot, Rafi closed the vault door and made sure it was secured. He looked around the yard, seeing the junk in a new light. Every piece of metal, every broken car, every discarded item had been hiding a secret for years. He realized his life had changed completely. From a poor hiker with no fortune, he now had access to a treasure worth millions, possibly billions, but more importantly, he had a responsibility. His uncle had trusted him, and Rafi was determined to honor that trust. That night, he slept in his cabin with Bruno at his side, the secrets of the lot heavy in his mind. The adventure had only just begun, and he knew that protecting the invention would require courage, wisdom, and careful planning. Above all, he knew one thing. His loyal dog had been the key to discovering this hidden world, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. Rafi woke early, the first light of dawn filtering through the trees. Bruno was already at the door, tail wagging and ears alert. Today, Rafi planned to make a careful inspection of the junk lot and the underground vault. He wanted to ensure everything was secure and that the hidden energy device would remain safe from anyone who might stumble upon it. He packed a small bag with the notebook, folders, and the vials containing the final core. Bruno followed closely, sniffing at the piles of scrap and old metal. Rafi had begun to see the junk in a new light. Each piece had been carefully placed by his uncle, not as waste but as camouflage to hide a treasure. They reached the old shed at the far end of the lot. Rafi lifted the hatch and descended into the vault. The machine hummed softly in the background, its lights glowing faintly. He checked the safety systems and the placements of the power cores. Everything seemed in perfect order. He felt a sense of pride and responsibility wash over him. Bruno barked softly and ran to a corner, sniffing at the base of one of the shelves. Rafi walked over and saw a small metal container half hidden behind old tools. He opened it carefully and found more notes from his uncle. The notes explained how the energy device could be used in small controlled demonstrations to provide electricity to towns or even farms. Rahim had planned for this discovery to be helpful, not just powerful. Rafi smiled. His uncle had thought of everything. The invention was not just a secret. It was a gift for anyone who could use it wisely. Bruno barked again as if agreeing. Over the next few days, Rafi began to experiment cautiously with the machine. Using the instructions, he powered small lights and a few tools in the underground room. The machine worked perfectly, generating energy without any pollution or waste. He could feel the possibilities opening up before him. The invention could change the lives of people in his town and beyond. One afternoon, a car approached the lot. Rafi froze. He had not expected visitors, and the yard looked as ordinary as it had when he first arrived. Bruno growled softly, sensing something unusual. Rafi hid the notebooks and vials in a secret compartment in the office and watched carefully from behind a pile of scrap. A man got out of the car and walked toward the shed. He looked around, taking notes and snapping photographs. Rafi's heart raced. Whoever this was, they were searching for something. He whispered to Bruno, "Stay close, buddy. We need to be careful." The man looked suspiciously at the ground, then at the shed. Rafi realized that someone else might know about his uncle's invention. He could not let the secret fall into the wrong hands. He decided to confront the man carefully. Rafi stepped out, keeping his hands visible, and called, "Hello, can I help you?" The man jumped, startled, and turned toward him. I am just exploring," he said nervously. Rafi frowned. "Exploring? This is private property." "Who are you?" The man hesitated, then said, "I'm a researcher. I heard about unusual energy experiments in this area. I was curious, that is all." Rafi studied him for a moment. He did not feel completely safe, but he decided to stay calm. "I see. This land is private, and I am the owner. You should leave." The man nodded quickly, clearly intimidated. He returned to his car and drove away. Rafi watched until the vehicle disappeared down the dirt road. He exhaled slowly, grateful that the secret had not been discovered. That night, Rafi sat in his cabin with Bruno at his feet. He thought about what had happened. His uncle's invention was incredibly valuable. It could bring wealth and recognition, but it could also attract danger. Rafi knew he had to be wise and careful. He opened the notebook again and read Rahim's final words. "The discovery is not for selfish gain. Protect it. Use it only for good. Trust those who are loyal and never forget the importance of responsibility." Rafi understood. The machine was not just a treasure. It was a responsibility. He had to decide how to use it to benefit others without allowing anyone to misuse it. Bruno rested his head on Rafi's lap and he patted him gently. Over the next few weeks, Rafi began testing the machine in secret. He powered a small part of the town, providing electricity to the school and the local clinic. People were amazed by the sudden availability of clean and steady energy. No one knew where it came from. Rafi kept it hidden carefully, always watching for strangers. He also started repairing some of the old equipment in the yard. He cleaned rusted parts, oiled the machines, and arranged everything neatly. The junk lot was no longer a heap of forgotten items. It had become a laboratory, a home for his uncle's legacy and a symbol of hope. One day, Rafi received a letter from the town council. They invited him to speak at a meeting about new energy projects. He realized that his secret was still safe, and he could continue to plan how to use the machine responsibly. Rafi smiled as he read the letter. Bruno barked, sensing his excitement. "Looks like we have a chance to do some good, buddy," he said. Months passed. Rafi learned more about his uncle's notes and the potential of the invention. He developed small, safe ways to share energy with the town. People's lives improved, and the word about clean energy spread quietly. No one knew the source, and that was how Rafi wanted it to remain. Despite the success, Rafi never forgot the importance of secrecy. He reinforced the vault, hid the keys, and made sure Bruno stayed close during all explorations. He had discovered a secret worth millions, perhaps billions, but more than money. It was a gift to help people and protect the world from harm. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Rafi sat on the porch of his cabin. Bruno lay beside him, tail wagging. The junk lot behind them was quiet and still, but Rafi knew the hidden machine pulsed with energy below the ground. It was a reminder of his uncle's vision and the responsibility he had inherited. He looked at Bruno and whispered, "We found something incredible, buddy, and together we will protect it and use it wisely." Bruno barked softly, as if agreeing. Rafi realized that his life had changed completely. From a poor hiker with no fortune, he had become the guardian of a secret that could change the world. He had learned courage, patience, and the value of loyalty. His uncle's trust had guided him, and he had honored it. The junk lot, once thought to be worthless, had revealed a treasure beyond imagination. Every rusted car, every broken machine, and every discarded tool had been hiding the legacy of Rahim's genius. And now, Rafi and Bruno were ready to ensure that legacy would benefit the world. As night fell, the quiet energy of the hidden machine pulsed softly beneath the lot. Rafi closed his eyes, feeling a sense of peace and purpose. He knew that challenges might come, but with careful thought and his loyal companion at his side, he could protect the secret and use it to help others. The story of a poor hiker and his faithful dog discovering a hidden treasure was not just about wealth. It was about trust, responsibility, and the courage to do what was right. Rafi smiled in the darkness, holding Bruno close, knowing that together they had discovered something far more valuable than money, a legacy that would last forever. And with that, Rafi closed his notebook, secured the last boxes, and stepped outside. The cool night breeze brushed his face, and he felt ready for whatever the future held. Bruno barked once and ran to the edge of the yard, his tail wagging. Rafi followed, ready to face the world as the guardian of a secret worth $50 million, and more importantly, as a man with purpose and heart.